What are the creepiest situations you have been in with strangers? An older woman came up to me and my girlfriend at a motel. She told us she couldn't get into her room. I asked if her keycard didn't work and she told us no, it did, but she wasn't strong enough to open the door. We walked over with her and saw that she was trying to get into a storage closet. I told her this wasn't her room, and she got angry and told her she had just put her stuff inside the room. I showed her that it said storage closet and that her keycard didn't work because there was nowhere to put the key. She refused to believe me and went to the front desk. When she walked away, a kid came out of the closet and told us that the woman had been following her because she thought she was her granddaughter, but they weren't related at all. She told us the woman tried to push her into her car, but she had ran away and hid in the storage closet. I asked her if she wanted me to call the police and she said no and ran off. The older woman came back with a staff member and he opened the door to the storage room after she said she had left something inside of it. She looked really confused when it was empty and stormed off. We told the employee what had occurred and he said he'd report it to the police. We left the motel after that. This happened a few weeks ago. I had just received some bad news while I was walking home after hanging out with some friends. I was walking down the street crying when I noticed a guy sitting in a parked truck staring at me. I was too busy with my own thoughts. I just kept on walking, with music in my ears. Soon I felt someone grab my shoulder and turned me around. It was the guy from the truck. He had seen me crying and stopped to ask me if I was okay. I took out my earplugs and tried to tell him I was fine, and I just wanted to go home. He hugged me and I couldn't help myself from bursting into tears. It felt like such a random act of kindness. Then suddenly his grip got tighter and I felt uncomfortable, but he wouldn't let me go. I looked up at him, because he was way taller than me, and begged him to just leave me alone. He then tried to kiss me and pull me towards his truck, saying how pretty I was and asking for my number. I just panicked and tried kicking him, but he was way bigger than me. I screamed for help and luckily two men were close enough to hear me and ran over to get the guy to let me go. I've never ran that fast home. And the worst part is that it was in broad daylight and he was just abusing the fact I was in such fragile state. Hitchhiking at 0400. Guy picks me up, his eyes are all pupils. Drive in silence for a minute after I thank him and introduce myself. He asks if I have a weapon. I say no. He violently pulls a blue Bic pen from his side door and thrusts it at me, while making intense eye contact. Here. Take this. If anyone tries to hurt you, stab them with it and bail. I take it, thank him. He then tells me this is as far as he's going and I thank him for the ride and hop out. It's a straight stretch of highway. I think he realized he armed his passenger and was afraid I'd stab him. Went to the toilet at work. Upon my return my coworker comments on the length of time I was doing my business and offered solution to reduce how long it took. Was in downtown St. Louis on my way to a Blues game and a little lost. A homeless guy approached my buddy and I and asked us for some money. We gave him some cash and asked him if he knew which way to the, then, Scottrade Center where the game was. He said sure, follow me. Cue the guy leading us through some super sketchy looking back alleys. My buddy and I start shooting Yakuza glances like oh shit we're about to get murdered aren't we? Came out of the alley, and sure enough he had led us right to the Scottrade Center with a great shortcut. Super nice dude. Down on my luck and out of money I was booking into a rundown hostel in Athens. It turned out it also doubled as a brothel. The crazy looking manager held my passport while a one-eyed prostitute took me to the room. As she opened the door I saw dozens of mice on the bed and many more on the floor. No way I'm going to sleep there. I said I changed my mind. The prostitute began to pour me and the manager begins shouting at me in Greek, telling me he won't give me my passport till morning. It was creepy and difficult getting out of there. I once went to the Dollar Tree at night and this homeless guy came up to me all beat up, blood-stained white shirt, torn jeans and a black eye. He started making conversation with me about the quality of stuff in the frozen section. And somewhere along the line he asked me if I wanted a whole bunch of candy. Only thing is that it's all behind the Dollar Tree. Naturally I said sure and he led me out back behind the store and lol and behold he has this entire truckload of leftover Easter candy from the previous holiday that he helps load in my truck. We're Facebook friends now. A year ago, I arrived in a small city in Italy in the middle of the night with my husband and a stranger asked for our help with his car. The battery was empty. My mind was thinking alert. Alert, as he said his car was on the parking lot. There were no lights whatsoever next to the train station, but my husband is such a sweet person, he agreed to help immediately. We had 3 big bags and at one point, we were like 300 meters away from our luggage, me trying to start the car and the stranger pushing the car with my husband, leaving the bags totally unguarded. I was so sure that we're getting robbed, but fortunately, he was just a nice stranger who really needed help. Felt embarrassed that I wasn't sure of his intentions. On my first day of work on the floor by myself at a store I worked, a 6'5" Russian man walked up to me in what I can only describe as Russian gangster garb, asked me if we had any bags that were about 6 foot tall that could hold 200 pounds of meat. Inside his basket was a shovel, various chemicals, rubber gloves. I pointed him to our trash bags and noped out to break immediately. Went to San Francisco recently. It was in the middle of March, so it's a chilly, but really beautiful day. My cousin, his GF, my boyfriend and I were all out walking around, going from shops to music stores, just having a great time together. Cousin and I were stoned. It was an amazing time. We were all talking in a group on the sidewalk walking to a Doc Martens store, then my cousin fell silent immediately. Followed by his GF, my BF, then me. I look up to see a naked old man in yellow sunglasses, and a blue balloon on his flaccid wiener. He was walking by us with this smug smile on his face. I know it's normal for SF, but I'm from a Midwest small town. I was shocked and I felt violated, and he just passed us by as any normal person walking would do. I don't think I'll ever forget that. Was at a restaurant. Waitress is like, I know you. I was like, oh, I am sorry, I don't know you. She's like, didn't you go to such and such high school? I'm like, yeah. She's like, you don't remember me? I was like, no. Kept escalating personal info, I still don't remember her. Suddenly she snaps, starts cussing and crying, all of this in front of my kids and wife. They literally had to drag her away kicking and screaming. I don't know who she was and I have never done anything that would have caused that. I always think, who the bleep was that? This happened last week at my job. There was a special needs boy in the area I was working. He walked over to me like he was going to give me a hug. No big deal, it happens sometimes. Well, next thing I knew, his head was on my chest and he made kissing sounds. Totally creeped me out. For the rest of my shift, if I saw him in my area, I would walk away. A stopped elevator crowded with random people. It only lasted a minute or two, but that was long enough to start wondering how bad this could get if it dragged on for a while. I was at Target shopping for pants and I was wearing all black, my normal goth wardrobe, when an old man approached me. He said, "Hey, is this a goth?" I stared at him blankly for a moment. What, he asked again, is this a goth? Are you a goth girl? My nana then saw this old guy talking to me, so she began to walk over to me and they made eye contact. Once he realized she was coming over, he hurriedly handed me a piece of candy and said, "This is for a special little goth girl," and he winked and walked away. Was hooking up with a guy at a house party who was not being very gentle with my lady parts. Asked him to please stop as I was no longer enjoying myself, and he seemed to enjoy that and continued while repeating, "Tell me to stop." Had to get serious to get him to stop. I was walking my dog pretty late. I lived in a condo building with off-street parking behind the building. I saw a man looking into my car with a flashlight. Like an idiot, I said, "Can I help you?" He asked if it was my car. I said yes. He told me someone had told him they left his drugs back here in a car and he was just looking for his drugs. I told him his drugs were definitely not in my car and went to my condo. For some reason I did not call the police, maybe to reward honesty. I was visiting, I think, Boston with my mom and older brother, and was on the subway when my mom noticed a guy mumbling to himself near the door. He then just kind of collapsed on the ground, and when other people tried to help him up, he pushed them away. He was giving out really weird looks and my mom made us get off at the next station because she was worried he might do something. Don't know what happened after we got off, but the guy seemed really stoned. When I was a kid walking home, someone stopped on a main road and offered me a ride. Maybe he was a good guy, it was over 100 out, but yeah, I'm not getting in some dude's car. I was in front of a cafe waiting for my dad to pick me up and a guy approached me trying to ask me for my name. I kept ignoring him and figured out directions on where to bolt if he does anything weird, but what bothered me was he was doing this in daylight where there were people walking by. I couldn't get inside the cafe as it was only a small one, and I figured he would only follow me inside, and there weren't any security guards nearby. When I was about to fake call my dad, he grabbed my arm and told me not to do what I'm about to. Shrugged him off and made a run for it. didn't follow me. However, I saw a Facebook post with a picture of him in it stating that he's done it to other girls and is actually in a club where they harass women and get points for them to rank up. I was about 14 or 15 when this happened. My friend and I were at Barnes and Noble's in a mall one time and I noticed this guy kept popping his head from around the corner and staring at us. I told my friend about him and she said she noticed him too. We left the store and started walking around the mall until I looked behind us and noticed him following us around. I told my friend again and we went into the bathroom where I called my mom to come get us. We waited in there for about 20 minutes before we left. The guy was sitting on the bench by the bathrooms. We quickly left and waited by the front doors until my mom came. When I was 12 I went to my friend's house and it was my first time meeting his mother. Long story short, she undressed me very slowly to get me in my swim trunks and she force-fed me her cooking. After I got older, in high school I looked back and realized it could have gotten a lot worse. I was in New Zealand by myself doing a road trip around the South Island. I'm eating dinner in the hotel restaurant, when an older couple, probably in their 60s, comes over and starts hitting on me and wanted to have a three-way. I'm in my early 20s, and they were in no way attractive, so I turned them down. The guy gave up and wanted to leave, but the lady wasn't giving up so easy. She claimed she wasn't feeling the best, and said that I could take care of her tonight and that she liked foot rubs and baby oil. Again, I said no, and had finished eating and was going to leave. She then proceeds to eat the remainder of my burger and fries that I hadn't finished, and then used the napkin I had been using to wipe her mouth. It was so damn awkward and gross, I got the hell out of there and went back to my room. I used to work at a gas station and a group of young guys came in. I recognized a few of them from school. They were a few years younger than me. One of the guys who I had literally never seen or interacted with before looks at me and says, "You got your lip pierced? Oh my god, what are you trying to do to me?" In an almost moaning voice. What? There. Bleep. More than half a year ago I went to a pub with a friend to get a meal. We were just sitting there and there was a man staring at us, and then when we were eating he interrupted us to ask where we are from. She's Romanian and I am Mexican. We answered to him as we didn't really want it to be rude, but then he called some of his friends over and presented us to them. They were asking us questions about our age, both underage, and where we were studying, where did we live at and who with. It really was creepy. Especially because my friend was constantly leaving me to go smoke outside and I was still not done eating, so I was staying there. After she came back they invited us to go out with them on a Wednesday to go play some pool and that they could just drive us there and back. They were in their early and late 40s, so it really was quite creepy for us. We said that we wouldn't be able to and left quickly afterwards. I would take a bus with a friend, while this rocker-looking guy started talking to us. Edge was very uncomfortable. We boarded the bus, and he followed us and sat down behind the bus. While driving he tried to scare my friend, and I walk back in the bus and start staring him in the eyes. He finally stops talking to us, but starts again a short while after. I walk behind the bus again and staring into his eyes, and he threatens to kill me. After I stared into his eyes in about some minutes while he's talking, he starts crying and say, "I never thought a little guy like you should get me down." Then we walk out of the bus happy that we got out of the situation. When I was 16 I was out in town with two of my friends. They were ahead of me while I was trailing slightly behind, texting another friend. A rough-looking guy, homeless, I assumed, steps in my way and asks if I have a lighter. I say no. He asks me how old I am. Tells me I'm so cute, aren't you? While poking me in the ribs. My friends didn't realize that I'm way behind now and the distance between us keeps increasing. I panic. I honestly don't remember how I got away, but it didn't escalate past the rib poking. I think I just said bye or something and quickly hurried to catch up with my friends.